'Twas last pay Friday afternoon, I went and drew me pay, and like a fool unto the school I surely bent me way. I soon lost all of me money, and I stood till I was numb. Then away I went, yeah man, wished to mysel that next pay Friday would come. When I went yemen, I tell't me wife, she nearly broke her heart. She says, me lad, such work as this is sure to make us part. I wadna cared if thou'd come yem drunk with strong beer, whiskey or rum. I'd have taken the rest and done me best till another pay Friday would come. Then she sobbed inside and the bairns all cried, and I was very bad. A hoose confused and a woman's abuse is enough to drive a man mad. And you very well what it
I'm Kevin, this is where I'm from, Stanley. I grew up here, moved away then, came back here a few years ago and I live here again now. And this is where I'm from. We're at the top of the Lauren near the windmills, at the top of Sandy Lauren. And then on the horizon here you can see, well, you can see most of Stanley. Across there you can see, right in the distance you can see Anfield Plain and the new road going across, and Pontop Pike, that's pretty much a marker for where Anfield Plain Greencroft is. In the foreground you can see Quakies, and then all the South Moor right across here, right at the top of Park Road. Coming along the top there you can see the Sandal Club, then you go right along, you see that houses come along the top there, and you get to the Ox Hill Inn, Ox Hill Youth Club, the Ox Pub of course, and if you keep going along there, you go past all the garage, Ox Hill Garage, you get to the Arch, and that's top of South Moor, which will bring you right down here, open to Quakies. This bit here is South Moor really, but it's still part, that's the borderline, South Stanley, and that's where I grew up. We used to play here when we were kids, it was absolutely fantastic. You can see what it is, it's a perfect playground, you know, you've got nests and birds, there's a pond over there, used to play cowboys and Indians here, and all sorts. There's a golf course here. And then this part here on the right there, that's South Stanley proper, which is where I grew most of my life till I was about 14 or something. And you can see across there on the top, you can see the new Asda, well the big Asda's been there a lot of years now. And then the other big building on the horizon, that's Mains Brothers. That's still what's left of the old building. The ones that got burned down next to it, the Co-op, they're all demolished now. And you go across, you can just see the spire of St Andrew's Church here, peeking up, just on the horizon there. And you go right along, you see the brand new academy, that's where the old swimming baths used to be. And then that brings you down into South Stanley proper, Lennon Terrace, Marks Crescent, Durham Road. You've got the St Mary's School here. And at the very bottom of the bank, you've got Reeves Boatyard, which is, it's a puzzle to me why we have a boatyard in Stanley, because we're nowhere near water or the sea, but there it is. And further around here, you had the old aged miners hospital. They've knocked it down, they've built a new estate on there now. And then you carry on there up to past the golf club, South Moor, and carry on up that road, you get to Bloemfontein, and then you're in Craghead, which if you come round there behind us, that's Craghead, and it brings you back to where that's a whole of Stanley there that you can see. Across the other side, you've got Shield Road, Tanfley, that's another part, but this is a huge swathe you can see from up here. It's a fantastic place to grow up, Stanley.
name's Jack Pye. Many of you might know me or seen me around Stanley. And this is my wife, Sylvia Pye. We've lived in Stanley all our lives.
My name's Bob Hindhoff. I live in Stanley and have lived in Stanley all my life. I used to have a business at Shield Row, but I retired about 19 years ago, and I'm still living in Stanley and love every minute of it.
My name's Louis Dixon. I'm not a Stanley native. I belong to Swalwell actually, which is a small village down near the Metro Centre. But we finally ended up at Stanley, and we've been up here about 16 years.
No, now we've got the giggles.
Right. Tell us who you are, Tracy.
We're gonna need a moment. Cut.
Bob Westgarth. Well, I've got the general garage at Anfield Plain, but I'm semi-retired now. My son basically runs that now. I thought it's about time that I enjoyed myself. Life's too short, so that's why I was semi-retired.
My name's George Fisher. I'm a pigeon fancier. I'm nearly 70 years old and I've had pigeons for quite a long time.
I can't now, hang on. Cut. This hasn't started.
Well, I'm Brian Ridley, and I've been in the Beamish Street for what, 47 years now. I originally started with the little shop next door, and then I took this one on a rental basis, and then I had the opportunity to buy the shop across the road when Miss Watson died. And like I said, I've been selling furniture and, you know, a bit of all sorts, you know, over the years.
I'm Linda Kirk, and I'm the founder of the Just for Women Centre in Stanley. The Women's Centre was set up 5 years ago, January 2011, and it was set up mostly to give support to women in the local community.
I'm Lesterine Tweedy, Director of the Just for Women Centre in Stanley, which has been open 5 years, and I've been here since day one. I'm from a little village not far from Stanley, but my first job was in Stanley, and I've a few relatives in Stanley. So Stanley is my main town, and I come to it a lot.
My name's Debbie. I work at the Just for Women Centre in Stanley.
I'm Louise. I come to the Just for Women Centre.
I'm not from Stanley. I'm from Newcastle originally. I moved here about 3 years ago. And the reason why I came here, because I thought Stanley was posh. A bit of a shock, it wasn't.
We thought of women obviously that had gone through mental health issues, women that had gone through long-term unemployment, women who'd gone through abuse, anything at all in a woman's life to give them support.
You come here and you get help, you get support, if you feel down, someone's always there to drag you back up on your feet, shoulder to cry on, and it's like everyone's got something they've been through, so plus lots of people have been through the same thing, so we can sympathise, or we can say, well, this worked for me, why don't you try? Or, well, if I can do it, you can do it. It's just a big supportive network of women, basically.
My name's Tracy, and I used to live in Stanley. And this is my sister, Jane, who still does live in Stanley.
Hi, my name's George Wilkinson. I'm the owner of Stanley Strings and Other Things.
Kevin Howe. I'm a Stanley lad, live in Stanley, bred and born, Lennon Terrace actually, but luckily I've been able to work in my own community now for the last 15 years as shade manager, but the last 35 years as a youth worker.
I'm Richie. I'm chairman of the Shield Row Allotment Association. Born and bred in Shield Row, East Stanley, 4 West Street, the old colliery houses.
Alan Kirkbride, live in Shield Row, right at present. Run Shield Row Allotment Society. I do a bit of everything for everybody.
I'm Sarah Jarman, I'm a sign writer and I live in Tantoby, so it's not very far away from Stanley at all.
Hello, my name's Eileen Ray, I live in Stanley. Originally I was from Craghead, that's a suburb of Stanley. I'm 73-year-old and quite happy.
What do I grow in here? Leeks, onions, tomatoes.
Were you born in Shield Road?
I was born in Shield Road.
You were born in Shield Road,
yeah. And the old Anderson's shelter.
I know. I was in the forces when you were born.
You were in the forces.
At the time. I was in France.
Potatoes, cabbages, turnips.
My name's Paul Woodley. I'm the head coach at Durham Amateur Swimming Club, but I'm also the head performance coach for LeisureWorks swimming development scheme.
Courgettes, pak choy, strawberries. Strawberries for the kids.
I'm Sarah Jones, a beauty therapist and a former European female professional wrestling champion. I'm originally from Sunderland and lived in Stanley for the past 9 years. My parents and my grandparents are both originally from Stanley.
My name's Joanna Makepeace-Woods. I'm the chair of Stanley Storm Netball Club.
My name's Justine Wilson. I live in Burnham Field and I've been playing for the club for 2 to 3 years now.
My name's Louise Hurst. I've played netball here for about 3 years. I'm the club secretary and I'm club captain. And I started this just to get fit, but I love it. All the girls love it.
When I met my husband, honestly, I thought he was a Scouser. I didn't know about Geordies at all. I was quite ignorant. But I came up to the North East and loved it, really loved it.
Hi, my name's Andy. I'm a mechanic and MOT tester. I work at a garage here in Anfield Plain, quite close to Stanley. I've lived in Stanley for 21 years now.
Yeah, I'm Alan Shaw. I'm the clerk to the town council. Until I saw the job advertised, really, I had no idea what Stanley would be like because I'd never really heard of it.
I'm Sergeant Dave Clark from the Stanley Neighbourhood Policing Team. My family's from Stanley. My dad's a Dipton lad, and I've got friends in Stanley who I met through college for years. I used to go to Parker's Rock Night when it was, I remember on Tuesday night years ago, and so I've always spent a lot of time in Stanley and I enjoy working in Stanley.
I'm Rhiannon Hiles and I'm Deputy Director at Beamish Museum. I've worked at the museum for over 20 years and I really feel that me being here and living in the museum and being close by to Stanley has had an impact on me, but also the museum as well.
My name's Barry Embleton. I was born and bred in Stanley, lived in Stanley all my life. Part of the transport and industry team at Beamish Museum.
My name is Kevin Carroll. I live in Stantwell Craghead, just outside of Stanley, and I work here at Beamish Museum.
Hi, my name's Andy Nesbitt and I'm head gardener here at Beamish Museum.
My name is Jess. I live in Burnham, but I went to school in Tanfield and have spent a lot of time up in Stanley.
My name's Terence Offleck. And currently I'm just living life to the full because it would appear, according to the experts, that my days might be numbered.
I'm David Mills. I'm from Quaking Houses, which is where we're at the minute. A beautiful place that it is. Magical place to grow up. What, the fells on one side, the parks on the others, plantations, cricket fields, reservoirs, fells, all sorts. It was an amazing place to grow up. We never really went out to Quakies much, but we didn't really need to. We've always kind of been with separate, like a little enclave kind of thing. Not to the detriment of anything else, it was just, we were always not insular, but looked after ourselves. If you would get wrong at the top of the street, by the time you got back home to your mum, she would know about it. And that was even if you'd ran at full pelt. I don't know how they did it, I always knew. The community spirit is still here, but it's it's not as big. But I suppose that's just with, you've got the younger generations moving in and the older generation obviously leaving, and it's still here. We're still known as a good place for people, but not as community minded as we were when I was growing up.
It was probably a better era years ago, you know. I mean, Stanley was a totally different place. It was a class place. They had everything. We had cinemas, we had cafes, you know, good cafes, you know, where the kids could go, and they were like the Roma Cafe. But dance halls, of course. We had the Co-op, and we had the Pally down the bottom, which I used to go to regular. It was very, very good. Very, very good. It was a great place to meet up, you know. I mean, there was a lot of fights went on down there and all, like, but there
was Vincenti's Moscadinis, Moscadini, and Val's, that was the off-licence.
Well, Moscadini's a tiny little cafe, partitioned off pretty much like the Roma was. And there used to be an old girl in, and I think her second name was Bromley or something, and the old man. And we used to sneak in for like Vimtos and that if we were playing hooky from school. You know, you'd go and hide in there because nobody ever went into Moscadini's. If you went into Bovies down South Moor, you got caught. Because the school board man lived down South Moor, just over the road.
The Roma Cafe, Moscadini's and Bovies down in Southmoor. I used to visit them all. Particularly like the Roma Cafe because it had, you know, like a 60s, 70s style theme with the booths and the frosted glass above them in the booths. So you couldn't quite see to who was sitting in the next booth. But there was clear parts within the frosted glass, and we always used to squint through there just to see if there was any girls there more than anything else.
The thing is, we used to go to Moscadini's because we were buffed out of the Roma, because that used to be Drakey's den with all the other lads. And we never got on with them, obviously, because we were like sort of different generation. I mean, there's only, what, 2 or 3 years between us or something? Yeah. But they were like into heavy Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, and we didn't care for... We liked it, but we weren't allowed to say we liked it. It was that sort of era.
I worked in Pinkham's factory at Southmoor and also books fashioned in Stanley. I was there until I was married, and shortly after, and then I had my son, and then I stopped work for a while, and then I worked at Books Fashions, and then we had a shop at Stanley ourselves, and I worked there.
And Pinkham's step to fame was, you know, and you're talking about the quality that Marks and Spencer's used to require from a little shop, little factory in Southmoor.
That's when the buses used to run through Stanley. You had the left-hand side looking down from what is now Asda, which all the buses just went that way, to Sunderland and the town. And on the other side, they all went to Constant, Burnholm, so on.
Well, you say once upon a time in Stanley, you didn't have to travel out the area to get anything. When you say even your little mothers, you had tip ladies.
You had everything.
You had Shimmels, Duggets. There was 3 paper shops. You know, you didn't have to go out the area in Stanley once upon a time. Well, that was when the buses used to run up like.
I was going to say, the buses stopped at the main street.
They
outside the shop doors, but they shifted over from there and closed it all in, and that's when the damage was done.
When I was young, I mean, we had the mining community, that's what it was, you know, all of the villages around us had the mines, and I think there was more of a community spirit. You know, things like, we used to have the Morrison Busty, which is a miners' gala, so everybody from around the area got together, and, you know, we celebrated a lot more. I think there was a lot more that the people in those days, we were from all the same backgrounds, so I suppose it was like that close-knit, and that little bit's gone.
Well, it actually, well, you see, everybody knew each other, and we lived basically in everybody else's pockets. Nobody had anything, you know what I mean? You could leave your doors open. You weren't afraid to go out and leave your door, was nobody would go in, and different set of values, what people had and that, you know.
And then where I lived, the street I lived in, the mine, the pit was just out the front, you know. So I used to just go around there, and well, when I was young, going to school, I used to take my dad's bait round, you know, and I used to sit with him because he worked on bank, and I used to sit with him while he was having his bait, and he would sometimes let us ride down the mine and come back up again with the miners, which was an experience. It was a little thriving community. There was plenty of good shops, you know. There were, like I say, there was the co-op, there was a little local cinema, there was Danny Armstrong, the fish shop. Mr. Johnson had the paper shop and the post office. Oh dear, there was, well, I shouldn't probably say this, but everybody will know it. There was a little shop, and it was called Dirty Meg's. You called her Meg Armstrong. You could buy anything and everything in that shop. Verna Carr, she had a little shop. It was just a hut, and it was down in the gardens, the allotments. And she was another one. You could buy practically anything there, you know. She was a really nice person. Well, she still is a really nice person.
I had a career with the National Coal Board until 1985. Even though it was pretty hard work and quite onerous and difficult, the NCB was really good to people like myself and apprentices and engineers who wanted an education. There was nothing they wouldn't do to help the lads to be educated and give them a good trade. And when you look back at it, a lot of the things that we worked on in the pits at the time, cutting edge technology, basically people maybe thought it was a rough pit this and pit that, but in the electrical and technical side of it, at the forefront of things that were happening, we were working with certain protective devices and things that were 20 and 30 years in front of what was in general industry.
In the old days, when you talk about Stanley, there wasn't many of the men in Stanley that didn't go to the snooker halls. Snooker was a big thing. You know, I mean, you had snooker halls. In Stanley itself, you had a one below what was then the Vic Cinema, which became the Isoldo. There was a snooker hall below that.
Going down the old Causey Arch, playing the Causey Arch, and digging old bottles on the old tip sites around here, believe it or not.
Friendships, the schools. I remember, that, you know, things like walking home over the bogs. Anybody who's from here will know where the bogs is at Kaya. And it was a case of, I think just that, you know, things like Woolworth, you know, I remember all the good things as children do. But it was a great place to be brought up in. And I mean, as I say, I was brought up in Anfield Plain, but that is your local area. Stanley was your town centre.
I liked Stanley was because you had the road going up the front street and you had every shop going. Anything you wanted you could get in Stanley. A lot more people. Very friendly place. I've always loved Stanley.
Oh, growing up in Stanley, I loved it. I had a large group of friends, still in touch with most of them now. I mean, I spent most of my time down the woods building camps. Everybody knew everybody's next door neighbour. You used to have, well, whoever was having tea, that's where you used to head for. You know, I can remember on a Sunday, me and my friend, I'll not mention his name because he might not want to be noted, but there was about 3 of us and we all used to congregate to one of our friends because she used to make, what was it? Rhubarb crumble every Sunday. So she would always have about 20 kids having rhubarb crumble outside the Pigeon Cree on a Sunday afternoon during the summer holidays. We loved that.
There was a snooker hall where Schimmel's shop used to be, upstairs. A snooker hall there. There was snooker tables in the Hibernian Club.
There wasn't many houses in Stanley itself for accommodation.
Not in Stanley itself.
It's not in Stanley. It's just mainly a shopping area, Stanley. Then they just started building around the outskirts a bit later on. But there wasn't a house in Stanley Main Street.
Oh, not a house. I mean, it was all shops.
Just
From top to bottom, both sides was shops all the way up and all the way down.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have to go out anywhere to look for anything. You had, obviously, such as now. But you've got no men's tailor shops. Where once upon a time you had 3 in Stanley. You had Jackson's, Burton's. I can work out the other one now.
There was a snooker table, a club, a big club. It would have 10, 12, 15 tables possibly above where Doggett's used to be, when Dodgerson's paper shop.
Only selection. Well, I mean, it wasn't too far from the coast. Some lovely walks, woods. To walk, some good walks and that. It was a hell of a lot better than the concert, which was looked upon as hell. I mean, even the windowsills here, when I moved in, were red dust.
The biggest change was the bypass. That was the biggest change because it was virtually the death knell of the town itself. 40 years ago, or whenever the bypass was put in, before that, Stanley was really a hub of activity and a super place to shop and a super place to live in. Trade, that's what we need in Stanley.
And snooker at Southmoor, snooker, it was a thing. The other thing was dog racing. We had Merry Park. There wasn't many of the local men who didn't go.
Well, the street was vibrant here, full of life. You know, there's loads of passing trade, and of course, I mean, the school was on the go and all, like. But there was a good selection of shops down here. You know, little specialty shops and all. I mean, we even had a little laundrette, and then there was Herdman's, the music store in the corner there. Used to sell sheet music, and she had a little sweet shop and all, which the kids from the shop used to go to, from the school, I should say.
Dances, you know, the dance halls that we had. There was the Pally at the bottom of the street. There was the Cooperative at the top of the street. The Hibernian Club even had a dance hall above the club. And, you know, everybody, if you talk to people in our age group, if you say, where did you meet your wife? 9 out of 10 will say we met at the Pally.
Well, I had pigeons when I was a kid. I mean, a lot of people come into the sport like that. I had them when I was a kid and I was really passionate about them. But other things happen, girls come along and families, and I mean, all my life I've thought to myself, when I retire, I'm going to have myself some racing pigeons.
So, when I was younger, I did have pigeons in a small shed at home. As I developed in my career as an apprentice electrician and work, I didn't have them until I got married, which was around about in the early 70s. And as I say, I first started again in 1974-75 at Burnhope. Then I flew there for 20 years, and eventually I came to fly in the Anfield Plane Club, and I've had them ever since. So I've had them practically 40 years.
When I was younger, I didn't have the money to race them. I used to go to my local allotments and stare over the fence at some of the old fanciers that had pigeons then, and used to see the pigeons flying around and coming back from the race, and it used to really fascinate us. And I didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money to give us to follow my passions then.
It's a passion in a hobby, I must admit, and it's very difficult to shake off, and it's something that I would hate to not have. It keeps me interested, gets me up in the morning. It's just 365 days a year job.
And this, where we're at now, it was a scrapyard once over, but I was looking at it and I was thinking, well, it's just full of other people's junk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my friends that's got the junk in my yard to clear it out, and I'm going to put a pigeon loft in it before it gets too late. I might get run over by a bus tomorrow, so I thought I'd better do it now.
And then we used to go to Catchgate, to Castles, and, you know, Castles had dancers on, but their big one was on a Friday night. You used to come out the Pally, 10 o'clock, jump on a venture bus, go to Catchgate, and Castles had a dance on from 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning.
We spent most of our times outside making bogies out of old prams. You didn't see old prams knocking about now, but we used to make go-karts. Few accidents, you know. You ever been down Durham Road on a go-kart? That's pretty hairy stuff, mind you, that. But we had no fear when we were kids. And we used to do the tatey picking during, you know, when the tatties were ready, and asparagus doing Lanchester. We used to make our own money, and, you know, we didn't have computers, we didn't have Game Boys or anything like that, but we had, I personally had, and I'm sure I'm speaking for hundreds of people my age, we had a really, really good time when we were kids.
I think Stanley's and Beamish always go hand in hand. For the early days when I was a child, when I visited Beamish, the majority of the staff were from around the Stanley area, and it was quite noticeable that there were local people that were enthusiastic about what they'd done.
Stanley, when I was a kid, I quite enjoyed it. I liked Stanley. Used to play in View Lane Park quite a bit because we lived in Church Street, which was just like about 100 yards away from View Lane. I was football, cricket. I was a county athlete, a runner. My dad was an actual professional runner, so it was through my dad that I got into my athletics. So I represented the county at 400 and 800 when I was about 12, 13 year old. I went to Gateshead Harriers for about 4 or 5 years, and then at the age of about 16, 17 I gave up my athletics.
Something I always remember from being really little, of going up, getting the bus, the old bus station being very, very cold, and going for markets, free on a Thursday, going for the markets. And I remember going with my mum and my gran. My gran loved markets and my mum hated markets. But I'm more with my gran. I love a good market.
My perception was that it was a poor town that didn't have a lot of business in it and not a lot of opportunities. But since I've lived in Stanley, I've had my own opportunities as far as progressing with qualifications. I've had training from local providers.
For me, the best thing about Stanley growing up was just look at it. You know, it's a fantastic, you could get lost here. It's nice and quiet. There's loads to do if you're a kid. It's just brilliant, you know what I mean? An absolutely great place, especially for kids.
All is peaceful in the valley. Birds are singing all summer long. Autumn hides around the corner. Red and golden days to come. Rooms are full of empty silence.
On the one hand, you've got you know some very beautiful countryside all around. You've got some great villages, some really interesting buildings, some lovely parks, and on the other hand, you've got some areas that aren't so nice. You've got some areas where there's issues, where there's problems. You know, you've got a town centre that seems to have been deliberately destroyed by the council in about 1970.
Biggest thing I would probably do with Stanley if I had a magic wand is reopen the front street to vehicles. I think Stanley's lost a lot of its zumph because of the front street closing down. And I mean, if you go onto Stanley Front Street any time during the week, it's one man and his dog.
If you want to keep a village and town sort of viable, you've got to have something in that town or that village which makes it viable.
I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest, because I think once over Stanley was the place. Concert was, it was like Stanley, then it was, to me anyway, the way I thought, it was Stanley, then it was Concert, and then Chesley Street, and then Concert, but Stanley was the main hub. but now it seems as if concerts really overtook us, and I think we need to be looking at what they're doing and trying to get some of it brought down to Stanley, just to bring it back up into the modern times, really.
When you think of the market stalls which come on a Thursday and a Saturday, it's thriving. It's really busy on those days. So if we had these places which are derelict redeveloped, then who knows? It may bring something back into Stanley.
Yeah, I think it's initial impact. Somebody's got to say, I'm going to do that and do it. But who's the person who's going to do it? Who's going to put the money in, which is basically what it amounts to.
I think it was a bit of a shame that, that Tesco's pulled out. Because I think if Tesco's had moved in and gave Asda a little bit of competition to kick up the backside, I think that might have helped Stanley a little bit. It might have also, if Tesco's came in, attracted one or two other businesses to come along, but obviously that's not going to happen now, I don't think.
The show that we do at Beamish Museum, which has been doing now for 18-20 years, anyone from the Allotment Society can join, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, they don't wish to. So it ranges between 16 and 24. There's 16 of us in it this year, and it's held on an annual basis.
The kids aren't as bad as people think, and that they do get a bad name, but it's the fact they've got nowhere to go, or the places that are there, they're very structured, and some kids can't cope with that. They just want to go somewhere and chill.
There's less people using the mainstream shops in the front street because you've got your bigger supermarkets, etc. So people's using those instead of shopping from the friendly shopkeeper that used to have.
The wind, because it's always windy, always.
Coming through a bit of a regeneration at the moment. There seems to be lots happening and lots of activity, and the community coming together to do some good around the area. So I think it's coming into its own a little bit. Like some of the other areas have had a bit of cash and a bit of regeneration and the new school and things. So I think it's becoming a much more nicer place to live, because when I was younger, when I went to school, it had Stanley didn't have the greatest reputation and it was seen as a bit rough, and I think it's coming out of that. It's having a bit of a resurgence now, and it's coming out of that a little bit.
If we weren't here, what would women, the problems they've got that come here, where would they go? What would they do? There's nowhere else anyway that offers the support, and it's continuous support. There's nowhere anywhere else offers this type of support, and that's what keeps me passionate about it. Yeah.
We're in the Louisa Centre right now, smack bang in the middle of Stanley. What you're seeing behind you now is our development pathway in action. I mean, there's not many places that have got a number of young adults from the age of 10 up to 19 like this, all working hard and really enthusiastic about the swimming. So these swimmers have come through our performance pathway, right from learning to swim in the little pool up to now performance level, where you've got some people competing abroad this year, and we've had people at Olympic trials and final Olympic trials this year.
Joel O'Halloran, I swim for Durham and Sunderland Swimming Club based in Stanley.
I'm Sophie Murray and I'm a swimmer for Durham and Sunderland Swimming Club.
I'm Rachel Wilson and I swim at Durham and Sunderland Swimming Club.
I'm Abby Strobber and I swim for Durham and Sunderland Amateur Swimming Club.
I've been here 2 years now. 200 breaststroke is my main event, and I dabble in the 400 iron. I've been to 2 national championships since I've been at Durham side. Last year I got a silver medal at the ESC Summer Championships in the 200 metre breaststroke. Ambitions, gold medal this year.
I've been coming to this club since I was about 2 years old. I've learned to swim here and I've always had a lot of support here, and it's helped me build up my swimming career. I've recently qualified for nationals for 50 metres backstroke, and I like to swim front crawl as well. When I go to nationals at the summer, I'm hoping to make a personal best, and then hopefully that'll take us further, so perhaps go internationally.
I've been coming to Stanley now for about 10 years, so about 9 sessions a week coming here using all the facilities. My main event is 100 breaststroke. I've just competed at Olympic trials in April where I made the final, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I hadn't have been coming here. I want a PB at nationals, which are in July. Then I'm going to have a think about what I want to do, but I'm probably going to transition it to doing master swimming, which is a bit for like older swimmers, like 25 to 29, like so on so.
Mostly 200s, so that's like 8 lengths of this pool. Breaststroke, front crawl, sometimes medley, like not really too fussed. I recently went away with the club for an international meet to Belgium and medalled there. I just want to achieve as well as I can, just to be the best I can be. Like, I don't want to finish and be like, oh, I should have kept going. I'm not happy with where I got to.
If you're bad enough you meet and would like to be put right, tag a walk some Friday night up to Stanley Market. All kinds of doctors there, you'll see they're all as busy as can be. It's way to tell the biggest lie while telling our what they can do. To hear them on the air that clever, they can make new lungs and liver. In fact, they'll make you live forever up at Stanley Market.
I'm 40 this year, and I first started when I was 15-year-old, so it's going to be a good thick 26 years. Twice a week we're here every single Thursday, rain, hail, snow or shine, and we're here on the Saturday as well. Stanley's a good county average all the time. Give the family a good living for a lot of years,
For me, the good things about the area are the green space, the countryside. You know, you can be in the town and you can be in the fields and out with the dog and doing activities within sort of 10 minutes of each other. But I think having the sports facilities on the doorstep are fantastic, and having all of that stuff all under one roof I think really makes a difference. Having the pool and everything here, you can just come to one place and do all of that activity. For me, as quite an active person, that's quite important for me. The people they're good people, they're community minded, they're keen to get involved and help out, and we've done a couple of charity events up here at the sports centre, and the community have all come along and bought raffle tickets and got involved to help support the local causes, so a good community feel, I think.
County Durham is one of the safest counties in the country to live in, and Stanley is one of the safest parts of County Durham. You know, people think that you know, the Durham city with its fantastic cathedral will be one of the safest, but actually, you know, the crime rates in Stanley are low. The amount of crime that's solved by the police and teams were relatively high. The Stanley is a safe place to live and work, and that's why I volunteer in Stanley.
I was born at South Stanley, but I lived at Shield Row most of my young life growing up. Well, I'm 54 now, and I've been here all my life, and if it wasn't for my wife I wouldn't have even been on holiday. I would have stopped here.
I think it grows upon you. You grow up there. You've got an affinity for the whole place, like Catchgate, Anfield Plain, and Stanley, and it's just the people there are so friendly, and you know, you've got great memories of the area and great friends, and it's just home to me. Even though I've been quite a few countries and you know, throughout the world and seeing things, and there's other lovely places to live, but this is always home for me.
It's hard to put it into words, really. It's just what I think when you've been brought up here, I think you just get a bond.
The green spaces around here are incredible.
It is a good place to bring children up, I think.
One thing I had noticed, the people are friendly here. But your weather is crap. I have to say, you can keep your weather.
Well, I did move away. In the 80s, I did move away. I went down the country to live, and I lived in Yorkshire and, you know, different parts of the country I lived in. But it always drew us back. And I always remember when you came home, when you hit sort of like Anfield Plain, coming from the Lanchester side, you would think, right, I'm back home. And it was the same as soon as you touched sort of like Beamish, coming up the road into Stanley, you thought, this is home.
I've lived all over the world. and the people are the friendliest I know.
The community spirit, I would say, it's still there, and no matter where you go, you could be going to like the Empire, everybody knows everybody, and you go in, you just walk in there and you stand at the bar and you could stand there 4 hours and have conversations with 10 different people, and it's a good night out or a good day out, you know. It's even walking down Stanley Street. I mean, see, I can walk, even my wife comments on it because my wife lived in London for a lot of years, and when I'm walking down, I can actually speak to about 30 or 40 different people going up the street. It takes us all day just to walk up the street to go to do a bit shopping, because it's a well-known family. I've come from a well-known family, not a notorious family, but a well-known one.
Second-hand shops. I love the second-hand shops in Stanley.
Oh, I love the second-hand shops in Stanley.
Because I've been bred and born, I walk up the street and I know 99% of the people. Most of the people are very passionate, they're very friendly. We get clients that come out of the area and settle in this area, and the comments I get off them enforces what I already know. It's a lovely place to live. The people are lovely, you know. They're really helpful, and I think that that is what I like about Stanley. Yes, you have your isolated incidents where you'll have violence and stuff there, but every community goes through that. On a whole, people of Stanley are really nice people.
The best thing about Stanley, there's so many good things about Stanley. It's got fantastic pubs and outlying restaurants. It's got fantastic community spirit, fantastic countryside. There's not a lot to knock Stanley for. People seem to want to knock it constantly. I don't know why people have this negative view of Stanley, and including some of the residents, unfortunately. But I think there's a lot of worse places you could be.
The view. I think the view. It doesn't matter which direction you're looking. There's a nice view from everywhere in Stanley. Particularly up at Quakey's, there's loads of fields around the houses. It's a lot more rural feeling than you'd expect from somewhere that's still reasonably close to big towns, and somewhere that's had an industrial past and kind of has a reputation for being a sort of dirty, smoky industrial town, when really it kind of hasn't been for about 30 odd years now. It's all become very rural and actually quite nice.
People who I meet are very friendly, very accommodating. The people who come and use the facility are fantastic, well-mannered, and the kids who come through the system are very good, very, very competitive.
The best thing about Stanley, or the most different thing about Stanley from where I used to work, the places I used to sort of serve, if you like, in my professional role, is the sense of community. There is a much stronger sense of community here, not just in Stanley, but in the North East generally, a much stronger identity with the local area. And I don't know, sometimes I find it frustrating because actually I'm trying to serve the whole of the parish of Stanley, and my councillors are more concerned about their little piece of Stanley, whether it be Shield Row or Enfield Plain or Catchgate or Southmoor or whatever. And sometimes it's really nice because clearly there is this strong identity with the, not just Stanley, but with the part of Stanley that you're from. I think it must stem back to the days when all the settlements were based around pits, and that sense of camaraderie that people had that worked in a lodge or in a pit together. Because I can see no other reason for it. And it's something that you get right across County Durham. You get village signs in places that aren't villages in County Durham, because of the way that the communities were centred on the pits. And even though the pits all closed, 30 years ago around here, the people still identify in those areas, which is interesting. I found it hilarious when I was organising an event in Southmoor Park, to find that from speaking to people that people in Quakey's and people in Southmoor used to have quite a rivalry, even though to the outsider who knows nothing, it's kind of the same place. You know what I mean? And yeah, that I enjoy. It has its challenges, but that strong sense of community is something that's good, and it's something actually that, doing what we're trying to do, it's something that's really helpful for us to try and build on. When I worked, at a town council down south, that didn't exist. even though the town was much more homogenous, and people from the little hamlets on the outside of it didn't think they lived somewhere else, there was less kind of willingness to identify, you know, and pull together. So that's probably the best thing about being in Stanley.
Well, my name's Maureen, but they all call us Mo. We're here right through the snow, the winter, hail, rain, anything. We're here for the customers, 7 days a week. Different faces every day. Some from Cumbria, Scotland, Carlisle, all over. No, I meet everybody, it's lovely, man.
You've practically central everything. You've got buses that go basically everywhere.
I love the kind of, you know, fact that it is friendly. We've still got that side of us, you know, people still help one another, people still speak to each other. You know, you go up the street and everybody's hello, and I think with being into other areas as well, you know, I do travel a lot, I work around a lot, especially in the summer times, and in some areas people just don't speak, they just don't have that sort of, you know, friendliness, and that's one of the things that I love about this area.
The best thing about Stanley, I would say, really is the friendliness of the people.
The warmth of the people, I think, yes.
You know, it's kind of almost, it's almost a cliche to say that people in the North East are the friendliest people in the country, but it's kind of true, you know. Before I moved up here, my brother-in-law, who's also a Southerner, but he's lived up in Newcastle and South Shields for about the last 15 years. And he said to me, the difference between being down in Essex and being up here is if you go into a pub on your own in Essex and buy a pint, you'll sit there on your own and everyone will look at who's that loser. You go into a pub on your own in the North East and everyone will sit and chat to you. And actually he's right, because I have been into a pub on my own, and people did start chatting to me. And so I think there is a different approach. People are slightly different. People are people at the end of the day. But yeah, I think they certainly are friendlier here than they are down south.
Best thing about Stanley would be my swimming club, because I've always felt like there's a community of support around me. I've got all my friends and a great coaching team. It's definitely a unique place to swim because of the facilities available. There's a great pool and there's a great gym area where we have access to. The coaches are really good, they're really helpful, and they support you through whatever hard times you're going through.
Stanley's helped me massively. I'd been to Olympic trials before when I was a little bit younger at a previous club, but I never made the final until I came here, and I was going to quit 4 years ago until the new coach came along, and he's brought all these great opportunities, and we've got to compete in Belgium and go to Malta and training, and so if it wasn't for all of that I would never have been able to do what I've done.
The swim facilities and the coaching staff here, as well as the club Durham side, which is based out of Stanley.
It's such a small place, but I think it's just underestimated really. The facilities here are amazing, and you can't really go anywhere like around here and find facilities like this and clubs that are achieving high performances like Olympic trials and things like that. You can't really find it anywhere else.
Here at Beamish, we have a very, very strong connection with Stanley, and we work with the Shield Row Allotment Society. They were the first allotment society that we worked with to do our agricultural and leek show.
Friendliness, without a doubt. I was in Hartlepool for 6-7 years and I talked to everybody, and it was 6 or 7 years before they replied.
We're about the people. We're about the people of the North East. We're about the people of the immediate locality. We're about the people of Stanley. And it's important that we go out to them and say, what can we do for you? How can we get you back into the museum? How can you feel that you're represented in Beamish Museum? And that's really, really important to us.
Well, me and Billy, that's on the ground down, I'm secretary and Billy's chairman. And we have a lot of contact with the museum, mainly through Andy, who is the head gardener down there.
We hold a leek show every September for the Shield Row Allotment Society. We have a marquee gets put up. A lot of the lads come down pre-event. We organise what categories we're going to put in, how we're going to involve the local schools around Stanley and County Durham. We also pass tips along with each other because we have a little bit of a leek show between the staff and the visitors, which is a lot less serious than the Shield Row one, but it's always a lot of fun.
We're generating a lot of interest from the school kids now. We're involving the children in the area. So they've got one section now where they do boxes and they put all little vegetables in and they'll get judged as well.
We're hopefully helping people know the skills are still there, especially the children of the local area. Just give them that chance to enter the league show, give them the chance to talk to the likes of Billy and Alan from the Shale Row League Club, and get the tips and get interested in gardening and get interested in keeping the heritage of gardening and league shows alive.
Oh, it's part of the community and it's authentic. You've got to show like something what was set in the 50s. Everything you do, like tapes, it's no plastic whatsoever, because there was no plastic in the 50s. What it was, you've got to do raffia around your onions and everything's authentic as if it was set in the 50s. All the lads has got like all the period dress suits and stuff like that on, and old Corrie men with the flat caps and stuff like that, and have a good day, like a good weekend actually.
Community participation, I think, is a big thing within the museum, within the area. It gets a lot of people talking, and I think that's one thing that's been lost over the years, is interaction with local people.
I just think of the communities. I just think the way that we've probably been fetched up. I mean, we work with an awful lot of women, you know, that's been brought from other areas who come here and have lived, you know, got them from London, down south, we've got them, you know, from Cumbria, and they'll say, we can't believe how friendly you are. And I don't know, I just think it's something that we want to be proud of. It's something that, I don't know, it's just, I think it's an inbuiltness, the way that we've just been sort of bred around here. I don't know what it is, but it's something, you know, I mean, I'm 50 odd year old, I'm in my 50s, and it's still the same as what it was when I was a child. So, you know, we want to be proud of that, definitely.
Canny place to live. It was a nice place. Well, it still is a good place to live. Like.
We're in Packed House, which is a community building at the bottom of Front Street. Nearly finished community building, I should say. It's a project that myself as a volunteer and local community spirited people have been renovating over the last few months, really, as a community hub.
But I really like the atmosphere and the people who live in and around Stanley.
The best thing about Stanley, I would still say it would be its community. You know, the community's still really, really strong in Stanley. You know, you say hello to somebody, open the door for somebody, you usually get a thank you or a good morning or whatever. So the community's really, really strong still.
I definitely think the people in Stanley are a good lot. Definitely.
I would love to see the chip shop, if I'm honest, but but I might get wrong for my gaffer if we keep going to the chip shop for lunch. But no, we do enjoy a trip to the chip shop. But no, I think the people of Stanley are probably the best thing of Stanley. I think there's a lot of decent folk out there, a lot of friendly people, and I think there's a lot of them that work at the museum have brought that to light.
We love Stanley. People are fantastic, mate. I wouldn't be coming all these years if I didn't find that.
I've got fantastic neighbours, you know, and we all pull together. You couldn't meet any better because they're very friendly, you know, and they help one another. I could honestly say I've had a happy life living around here. Now I'm in my twilight years, shall I say. I'm quite content being here.
I love to see St Andrew's Church. I know it sounds
it's
one of those, you know, a bit of a, what's the word? You know, people going about seeing the Tyne Bridge when they're coming home, and Durham Cathedral, and just seeing St Andrew's Church on the horizon. I just think I just love it.
The best thing about Stanley, without a doubt, is the people. But I mean, me personally, I love the countryside. You can walk 5 minutes and you're into some beautiful, any direction. You walk 5 minutes and you're beautiful countryside, beautiful sights. But the people are just really good people. I don't really want to live anywhere else. It's a fantastic place. And I'm happy here. We've got all the leisure things we could possibly really need. We've got excellent connections to like all the cities and towns. There's no I would really change it all. I love the place.
Aye, well, it was in November, well, I never will forget, when the polishes and the candy men at Oaky Hooses met. Johnny the bellman, he was there a-squitting round the boat. They put 3 men on every door to turn the pitman out. What would a day if I had the power mysel'? I'd hang the 20 candy men and Johnny we carries the bell. Well, I went from house to house and then they put things on the road, but mind they didn't hurt themselves were carrying heavy loads. One would carry the poker root, the fender or the rake, but if they carried two at once it was a great mistake. What would a day if I had the power myself? I'd hang the 20 candy men and Johnny we carries a bell. One of these dandy candy men was dressed up like a clown. One had a hat without a flip and one without a crown. And one of them that was with them, well, I swear that he was worse, 'cause every time he had to stoop it was a laughable farce. What would a day if I had the power myself? I'd hang the 20 candy men and Johnny we carries a bell.